Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Acquisitions Anonymous. This is Bill D'Alessandro. I'm one of your hosts. Today I am with Michael Girdley, and we talk about a SaaS business that is trading for just 2.8 times. It has $1 million in EBITDA, and they only want $2.5 million for it. So really interesting. And I love doing this with Michael because he does the most classic Michael thing. The whole episode, he poops on it the whole episode. I mean, verifiably for good reason. But then at the end, he delivers this master strategy that I would never have thought of. But after years in SaaS, Michael comes up with this, and it's a reason to consider buying it. So do stick around to the end. This is a really interesting breakdown of a SaaS business. We also have detours into sumo wrestling and why Michael is a huge fan of that. Philosophy. I compare Taylor Swift to Elon Musk in this one. Is a fun one. I hope you enjoy this episode of Acquisitions Anonymous.
This episode is sponsored by the Holdco Conference. This is a conference exclusively focused on holding company entrepreneurs and their executives. It is where holding companies meet, learn, and scale and grow. From tech to home services, Holdco entrepreneurs from around the globe will be meeting in Cleveland this September 18th to the 20th, 2023. And it will be there in Cleveland, Ohio, which has me super excited, also because I will be one of the speakers and attendees of the conference as well. So I encourage you to check out their website and consider joining us there. The website is holdcoconf.com. That's holdcoconf.com, and get more details there and sign up to join us. See you soon.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Acquisition Anonymous. Michael is doing the mystery deal today. I said, okay, what deal are we doing? And he said, I'm not even going to show you.
So this deal was sent to me by 3 different people. One is the person said, you got to do this deal. Second person said, you got to do this deal on the pod because I think I knew what business it is. And they told me. The third person said, I want you to buy it and I'll run it for you. So those are the 3. So it is that.
Is it a Lego Man business?
Oh man, the Lego Man business was so cool. That it's Lego Man business is definitely up there with the wine rating business. If people keep asking me like, what's a good niche business? I'm like, let me tell you about this wine rating thing. Like it's a total scam. It's just like, that's the kind of scam I wanted to get into.
That was a good one. I don't know what episode that was, but we'll put it in the notes or something.
Good stuff. And look, listeners, because we have staff again, we are putting links to the deals in the show notes. So you should be able to find them if they're still up. Okay, so this is a quiet light deal, Bill. And it is a 9-year-old SaaS with 86,000 MRR, monthly recurring revenue, and $1,250 lifetime value. So revenue for them is $1.28 million a year. Income is $883,000. And they want to sell the business for a multiple of 2.83 times income. So an asking price of $2.5 million, revenue $1.3 million, income $883,000.
Should we just buy this business and flip it for a proper SaaS multiple? A 2.8x SaaS business?
Yes.
I'm intrigued.
I don't know. Let's see. There may be some surprises here. So
okay, continue. I'm listening.
I haven't read it yet, but do I have your attention, Bill? Short answer is yes.
You do. Full attention.
Starting in 2014, this well-established email capture SaaS business helps customers convert traffic into valuable leads. This business runs a typical plugin-based freemium model and generates both monthly and annual recurring revenue by offering additional features to paying customers. This business offers a free WordPress plugin and Shopify app to acquire customers and simplify installation. It integrates directly with dozens of top email service providers, including MailChimp, Aweber, ConvertKit, Klaviyo, and HubSpot. The business currently has over 1,900 paying customers, $86,000 in MRR, an average customer lifetime value of around $1,250, and a monthly churn rate of 3.2%. The business peaked in 2017 with 540K MRR. However, due to disagreement... Okay, so let me slow down there. The business is currently at 86,000 MRR. At one point, they were at 540,000 MRR. What is that percentage decrease? It is so high, I can't even do the math.
Like 80%.
86 divided by 540. 85% decrease.
Ooh.
And a monthly, let me see something. Okay. However, due to disagreement over the direction of the business, the co-founders put the business on autopilot. They stopped all active marketing and non-critical development and shifted their focus to another business, which presented a significant larger opportunity. Without active leadership, the business has declined steadily over the last several years. This willful neglect leaves a fantastic opportunity for a new owner to take advantage of the existing customer base, an email list of 100,000 subscribers, a solid infrastructure, and an established brand. The sellers are seeking a new owner to take over and grow the business and are willing to provide support and guidance for a smooth transition. That is the business. Okay. So, the multiple sounded amazing until we realized that this business is shrinking like a melting ice cube. So anyway,
Interesting.
what do you think?
So, okay. So at first we said it's 900K of SDE and they're selling for less than 3 times and it's SaaS. And you go, that's really interesting. But now you
Correct.
realize business from in 5 years has declined 80 to 85% and they blame it on neglect. I
Correct.
got to say, I kind of being in this space a little bit, not being in this space, but you being a customer of this space a little bit, uh, don't know if I would call it neglect that is shrinking this space. So what you've got going on is, I don't know which business this is, but it sounds to me like something like a Just Uno type business where justuno.com, if you guys know what that is, it's basically, if you don't want to do any coding, you just want to pop up to capture emails on your website, like you drop in one line of JavaScript and then you go on justuno.com and you like can configure the way it looks, and then you can route the emails that people put into Klaviyo or MailChimp or wherever. Total customization. You can set it only to pop up on, the third page view or after 10 seconds of looking at the page or whatever. That's, I think, what this business does. This is mad competitive. And it got started, and Just Uno is big and good and but expensive. But then you've got the Klaviyos of the world, the email providers of the world have historically sucked at this. And like their built-in widgets that they give you are terrible, and that's why all these businesses popped up. Klaviyo, at least I know for one, has gotten notably better, although it still has room to go. The email providers are starting to realize this. So you've got like the Just Unos of the world, who they're like the ones that like I maybe originally piloted like the spin the wheel for a discount type thing. All those
Yep.
pop-ups you guys have seen on the e-commerce websites. That's almost always a Just Uno pop-up. So it's something like that, right? Like a Just Uno style. I just worry this business is getting squeezed from all directions. The email providers, integrated offerings are getting better, and then you've got these like a big Just Uno on top of you.
So the person in the DM said he thinks this business is sumo.com. So before I go there, Just Uno, I think it's important, right? Like the pop-ups, the email capture, they have a full suite of crap that I would describe to try to capture emails and do engagement. So they have the, one-time discounts, all that kind of stuff for your e-commerce site. So I understand that. Then Sumo.com appears to be just email capture. That's it. And as part of the AppSumo, SendFox, all that kind of stuff. So they are a point solution in a world that appears to look like Just Uno now, which is Just Uno is a full suite, and Sumo.com is just offering a one-point solution, in the grand, in this product portfolio.
I think Just Uno is a pretty well-run business, and I think they figured out about 5 years ago that just being a point solution to capture email was the dead end, and that's why they built the whole suite. At one point, Just Uno was a point solution years ago, and they've really built out the product set. A lot of software engineering. Like this is not like something you just buy and like spend $100,000 on.
So is this the whole Noah Kagan thing? Noah Kagan was AppSumo, right?
I don't think Noah runs. I think he may own some of it, but I think he's got a CEO and has for a while.
And then the former CEO of AppSumo is on Twitter too, right? He's like a business coach now. I'm totally blanking on his name. Like he's a good guy, or he's been nice to me, and he seems like a good guy. Okay, and then AppSumo appears to be a declining. I mean, anyway, this is all theoretical that this is what it is, but that's what the person in the DM said it was.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to say AppSumo is declining business on a hunch here. And also, even if it were, this is one part of that portfolio, right?
Yeah.
Killer domain, though, sumo.com.
As a Sumo fan, it would be a great domain name to own. It's almost like, I wonder if I could get this domain name somehow. Four-letter word.
Did we just gloss over as a Sumo fan? Do we just gloss right over? Are you a fan of sumo wrestling?
Oh, yeah. It's super interesting. You should totally check it out. It is perhaps the best spectator sport for busy dads. Like, it's really cool. So
just for busy dads?
So, I mean, you're a busy dad too, so I was trying to just relate to you. I mean, other people I'm sure are interested in it. But look, here's the thing with Sumo. So like number one, it happens. It happens on a regular schedule. It happens actually overnight in Japan. So you wake up every morning and you see the highlights. And basically, they have a cadence. They do, I think, 6 major tournaments a year. There's one every other month. And they have a whole kind of tiering and ranking system and all kinds of just fascinating Japanese cultural politics, anachronisms, all this kind of stuff that play into the whole thing. And like it's like super weird. So like you look at, for example, like professional cycling or NBA, like these are actually sports trying to promote themselves globally. Like the Japanese are like, no, we don't care. Like this is our thing. Like don't worry about it. Like so like recently, I watched the highlights on YouTube, and there's like people like doing commentary in English and all this stuff. Like there was a big hubbub because like the Japanese like Sumo Association went through and like destroyed like the ability for them to use highlights. So it's like this weird cat and mouse going on. But it's like a highly technical like wrestling sport, and like these guys are like incredible athletes. And there's a
I
lot of
did know that.
drama. Yeah, there's a lot
I
of
did know
drama.
that these guys are incredible athletes and super technical. Like, they look like they're really overweight, but they really are actually, I mean, they're overweight, right? But
Yeah,
they're also very, very strong, and there's a lot of footwork, and it is technical.
yeah. And there's a lot of drama to it. There's these guys like fighting, and they do a good job of like having the guys like fight and try to win in order to keep a salaried rank. Like below a certain rank, you don't get paid anymore. There's like and there's all this like weird stuff like that's just fascinating as a student of culture. Like they kind of forgot how or pretended like it wasn't really dangerous for the wrestlers for like the longest time. And like these guys would like get these massive concussions, and they would just like tell them get back up and like keep wrestling, or like, and you'd see these guys like stumble out of the arena like with massive brain damage. And it was just like all of this stuff like in terms of the politics and the weirdness of Japanese culture compared to ours. It's really fascinating. And there's like Americans and British people who in English like go and observe the sport and like put it on YouTube. I highly recommend it.
Now, now I'm just going to picture you like in the morning, you wake up, you make your coffee, and you're like, not now, kids. Daddy's watching his sumo from overnight.
Oh
Daddy's
yeah,
catching up
100%.
on sumo.
Yeah, like, hey, come on over here. Like, Takakesho's like got to win this, or he's going to drop out of the Ozeki rank. Like, really interesting. Um, like, and then there's all these like it's very Japanese. Like, you start to learn what all these unwritten rules are. So Japan has all these rules, but then what's more important is the unwritten rules that you're not supposed to break. But they're not written down anywhere. Like, for example, like if you go on like anywhere in Japan, it's considered very rude to subject other people to the noise of your conversation. So like the only people you'll see like on a subway that are like really loud, or that you can hear them talk, are foreigners. Like they're if you see somebody that's being loud, unless it's in a special district, like where that's permitted because there's an unwritten rule that it's okay to do it there. Like they're either children or they are foreigners. Like those are the only folks that'll do it. And it's just like,
Yep.
so like that all shows up in sumo too, and you start to learn the intricacies of that. It's much better than baseball, where there's unwritten rules.
Much better than baseball. Baseball has unwritten rules too. I'm just not a big enough fan to know what they are.
Those are funny. And then there's unwritten rules in basketball too. Like a lot of the times when you see somebody punch the other person in basketball, it's because they're breaking some unwritten rule that you're not supposed to do a thing. Like if you're way up in the score, you're not supposed to like dunk at the end of the game and stuff like that. So anyway, so where did we end up?
Okay, so email capture. So this is a SaaS email capture tool that's down 80% over the last 5 years, and yet it still has $900,000 of annual recurring revenue, semi-recurring, and it's for sale for 3 times. Yeah. Right, so it's priced appropriately. One thing that did jump out at me is their monthly churn, which is 3.6%, minus 3.6%. Which means that in 12 months, they will lose a third of their customers, or almost half of their customers, actually, in 12 months. So that tells you that what's going on behind the scenes here is you're also maybe not adding quite as many as you're losing, given the 90% decline over the last several years, but you're always having to do marketing and replace customers. So, I mean, Michael, I'm not like Mr. SaaS, but like minus 3.6% per month in SaaS is worrying, is it not?
It's bad. It's bad. Well, and it ties in.
Okay, that's bad.
So here's a mental model that I used to think about business in general, but especially in software, right? It is incredibly difficult to take something that is shrinking and make it break even. So that's like that's like a triple indeed to do that. That's very difficult in software because like the things that are causing you to shrink in software, which is a growing market, the things that are causing you to shrink, those things are almost always systemic. Like they're almost impossible to
Structural.
fix. Yeah, they're structural, very difficult to deal with. The market is turning against you. Then it's another order of magnitude to take something that's growing slowly or is flat and make it grow quickly. Those are the mental model I think about this. Like it's really very difficult to do those two things. So when I look at this, I've looked at a number of these businesses and been involved in ones that were shrinking and tried to make them grow or tried to make them at least stay flat. Like it's really, really hard. Like there are easier ways to make money. And so when I look at this, I'm like, oh, like it's highly unlikely that you're going to come in without some magical approach to it and take this shrinking thing and turn it into a flat thing. Which is
Turnaround
why,
is brutal. It takes a specific type. I mean, it's demoralizing because it's not like you're going to come in and like in month one it's going to turn around. You're
right?
going to have to you got to cut the overhead. You got to try a bunch of stuff. It's the first things you try aren't going to work. Maybe something is going to. I mean, it's just a knife fight. I mean,
Yeah.
turnaround is tough. I know some guys that do it, and I don't know how they do it. I'm not cut out for it.
It is much more fun to work on easy businesses and make them do better. That is just so much. It's just so much more fun here. But yeah, this is from a shrinking, we've lost the market, we've screwed this up, we've dug our own grave here thing. This is classic example of that. And I don't know anything about the background or even what this site is, but I've seen this profile before where somebody has something like this that's dying quickly. The dying is probably accelerating and they're trying to find a chump to dump it onto. And this is a classic, what they call value trap, where it's like, oh, like this is cheap SaaS. Well, it's the reason it's cheap SaaS is because it's a shitty business. Pardon my French. Like this is a bad business.
So, so if you could put the listing back up for a minute, because there were
Oh
a
yeah,
couple other things that I thought were interesting. So they said they've got, and this actually makes me wonder if it's not sumo.com, because sumo.com, I think the most you can pay them is $39 a month, is their recurring, like their pro plan. But this is their lifetime value here is $1,250. That would imply 32 months of lifetime value. And yet they're churning half their customer base every year.
right.
Those two, I mean, I know those aren't perfectly correlated, but that does not seem to add up to me. I would think in order to get to that lifetime value with that amount of churn, that would only have to be like 3 or 4 months, right? To get that lifetime value and then churn. Like you'd have to be paying $400 a month for 4 months, for 3 or 4 months, and then churn and
Right.
hit that $1,250 LTV. Like when I think about SaaS and that you quote me an LTV number, I immediately try to convert it to months, right? Like how many months does someone stick around and why? So for me, like I really want to know how many months $1,250 is.
Well, if it's Sumo, that's $468 a year. So that's probably how they're backing into that number. To get to
$468 a
1250.
year, though, that would at $1,200 lifetime value, that would be almost 3 years, right?
Right.
And so how can you have an average lifetime value of 3 years and still be churning 3% of your customers every month? AKA 50% of them every year. The math doesn't seem to work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they may be doing a cohort-based number. They could be averaging the cohorts. There's
You're
lots of ways to play
you're
with the
saying the
numbers here.
true LTV may not be averaged across the whole customer set. In fact, $1,250.
Could be. There's lots of, there's lies and statistics, and then there's the truth. So,
Yep. Yep.
something like this realistically, you talk about where it's going to be return on hassle and return on, like good investment. I would be definitely interested in understanding what the fixed cost is for this. They probably have a staff doing customer support. They have some hosting costs and stuff like that. There is a point where this ice cube is going to keep melting on them and this net income is going to keep going down. I would be curious where that is. Fundamentally, like if this is part of AppSumo, right? Like you have to ask yourself, like, why are these guys selling? like, like it doesn't. So there's something wrong in Denmark.
Yeah. I mean, typically I like founder disputes as a reason
Yeah,
for selling, because it's a true non-business reason. As bad as it sounds, it's like up there with health issues. That's a real, kind of forcing function that's outside the business. So I generally like that. That being said, I think willful neglect, even if they were paying full attention, I think they might have gotten smushed. Like the market moved while they weren't paying attention. And it moved to a place where I don't think they can follow unless they had been raising and investing a bunch of money over the past 5 years. So, Michael, is there a price for this thing? I mean, is there a structure for this thing? Is it not tradable at all? Should they just hold it and wait for it to die? I mean, it's still making $900,000 a year. Like, there's got to be something here.
There is a net present value of the existing revenue stream that somebody will pay a discount to. Like they'll model it out. It's nowhere near 2.5 million. So somebody will do a discounted cash flow, assuming that it's going to continue shrinking. The monthly churn is probably accelerating. I would be surprised if it's not accelerating given the market dynamics, if it is indeed Sumo. And somebody will pay, they'll do a DCF model and say, okay, well, we think there's a good chance that this generates, $1 million or $2 million in net income over the next couple of years, because you're going to start to hit your fixed costs, and then they'll pay a discount to that. So there are people that will do that. I think there's another,
Just
and
not you.
that's, it seems like a lot of work. Then there is another group of people that I would describe as probably what this listing is targeting, which is, let's find somebody who thinks they can fix it and they'll pay a premium for it. And it would not surprise me if that's who they're targeting with this. And with this price, I think that's what they're going for. And look, we talk about in selling a business, you only really need to, make a market of one. They just need to find one person that, wants to make a mistake on a business like this and go from there. So, it wouldn't surprise me if these guys either get their price or they just sit on it. Like I see that over and over again where they're like, well, this thing's generated 900 grand a year. Maybe next year it'll do 750. Maybe the year after that it'll do 450. And then we're better off doing that than taking, 1.2 million up front. And that's why stuff like this just sits there or never transacts. Or you call the seller and they're like, well, I got something to sell you. In which what they're actually saying is, are you an idiot? And if you say, no, I'm not an idiot, then, it's
Okay, then never mind.
Then never mind. Thanks for stopping
Well,
by. I'm just going to sit here and collect my coupon.
there's a interesting math heuristic that I keep in my head, which is that in this case, if something is halving every year, right? If they do, 2 million last year and 1 million this year and 500 the next year, the total lifetime revenue is asymptotes to 2x this year's revenue, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you do a million this year, next year you do 500, next year you do 250. The total forward revenue in the entire infinite future of the business is $2 million, right? $1 million this year, and then $1 million in aggregate in all of the out years. So, this business, in order to shrink 85% in 5 years, it's damn close to having every year, right? So that's kind of what I would consider modeling, having every year. So the sum total of all the forward cash flows, including this year, is 1.8 million. But if you don't include this year, like if that's a trailing 12 number, so if the trailing 12, 900, the forward sum total of all the cash flows is only $900,000 total if it halves every year into infinity.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that works the other way around too. If you are doubling every year, each year you do more than your entire aggregate historical revenue, which is also kind of a mind fuck. I have luckily been a part of one of those businesses. It's pretty wild.
It's like when software really works, like there's no better business. Like there's just no better business when software really works. And I'm including like being in the Taylor Swift business. Like, have you seen how much money she's making from her tour, by the way? She's going to make like 600
I haven't seen
million.
the numbers, but I bet it's a ton.
I saw somebody do the math. She's going to be like a billionaire from this tour. Like pretty crazy.
Oh, if she's not already, she's a machine.
Oh, so talented. Like, but it's, it does come back to this theme of like, would you trade places with Taylor Swift? And I absolutely would not. Like being that famous seems like a terrible life. Terrible life.
No way. I see this is maybe a reach, but tell me if you think I'm crazy. I see Taylor Swift, Elon Musk parallels.
Yeah.
Because they are both obviously absolute geniuses, right? I mean, like Elon Musk is a, I think, general purpose genius, as is Taylor Swift. I think she's a incredible business person, not just an incredible musician, right? She's obviously very smart and savvy broadly, and she applies that to music and other things. Um, but it's sort of like that cursed genius, though. Like in both cases, right? They're both a little troubled, uh, personally,
Yeah.
and there's parts of their lives they just can't square away. So it's always that sort of yin and yang of like the extreme genius, that there's always a part that just doesn't seem to quite work right.
Yeah. Well, so here's a very Girdley take on it. Like they talk about in the Bible, like selling your soul to the devil, and everybody thinks it's like, oh, the devil shows up and he gives you what you want. The devil is, in that case, it's an idea, right? They've to a great extent, like they've both gotten what they want. Like Taylor's become famous. That's what she's wanted ever since she was a kid. And I'm not her psychologist, but that's just what they say. And then Elon has decided to like become super rich and impactful. And that you look at young videos of him, that's what he always wanted. But they made a deal with the devil. You got what you wanted, but like your life sucks now. You have to travel with armed security. You can't like have normal relationships. Like life is just, the devil is with you. You traded your soul. You traded like what a lot of us take for granted. And look, man, like you and I are niche internet famous. I'll take niche internet famous over what they have any day of the week. Any day of
Oh
the
my
week
God.
plus Sunday.
Yes, absolutely. Niche internet famous is the best kind of famous, right? Like
So,
one week a
totally.
year, people know who you are. Like you go to your industry's conference and like you get to, people know who you are. And then the rest of the year, no one knows who you are.
The weird one I have is like random people are like, love you on Twitter. Like, who the hell are you?
Like at the grocery store. The problem is you're very recognizable. You're visually distinctive. So I bet
Yeah.
you can get recognized in
Oh, I
public.
totally do. I was at lunch the other day and like the waitress was like, love your tweets. It's like, what the?
No.
It's funny when I'm with other people and I'm like, just kind of like, oh my God.
And you're like super embarrassed all of a sudden. Like that's a weird thing to happen.
It's interesting to like, it teaches, hopefully, this is something that's happened to me a bit older. So I try to handle it with grace and appreciation. Like I lived in the dark corners of nothingness and somebody recognizing and appreciating what I do. And it's great. I'm thankful. So
Yeah. I mean, it is a real compliment, right?
yeah. And a weird level of responsibility.
Yes, totally. Have you ever read? I mean, obviously, you know who Tim Ferriss is. Our listeners probably do too. Tim he's beyond niche internet famous. He's like actually internet famous, trending into potentially actually famous. And he wrote a very interesting blog post like a couple years ago about the dark side of being famous. And with like real anecdotes from his life about like very creepy things that have happened to him. And his basic allegory was like, look, I have easily a million fans, right? A million people that know who I am and would recognize me on the street, right? You probably live in a city of about a million people. In that city, how many of those million people are mentally unstable?
A lot.
How many thousands of them are unstable? And so he's like, I have millions of fans. How many of my fans are legit mentally unstable? And he just gives all these examples, and it is terrifying. No desire to be famous. You can look it up. Tim Ferriss, Dark Side of Being Famous on Google. It's interesting in a very scary way. That being said, you will not get internet famous buying this declining SaaS business. So
No,
there are
you shall
other
not.
reasons to think about maybe not buying it.
You shall not. All right. Well, I got to run. I got people waiting on me, but this is a good episode. And yeah, I would buy this business. It's way overpriced for what it's actually going to be worth. Like, and if people think that you're going to turn this around, like that ship sailed, timing matters. They had an opportunity 7-8 years ago, and that window passed. It's this. You're not going to turn this around and grow it, or even keep it flat. You're in trouble.
Brutal. I'd be interested if anybody does pull off a deal for this one.
So there is a play here that I just thought about. There is a play that you can buy declining stuff like this, and you start raising the prices like crazy. So basically, what you do is you go and say, okay, it's $39 a month. You get it, and what you do is you basically triple the prices, and you say, "Oh, congratulations! It's now $99 a month." And what you do is you expect half the people to churn. And if you look at it, there's like Bear Analytics or whatever. It's a platform that sold that was like a $2.5 million SaaS. Bear Metrics. They sold for $2.5 million. The guys that bought it, that's their whole play. They focus only on developer-centric stuff, so they wouldn't do this deal. But that's kind of the model that you do. You pay X for it, and then you triple the prices, lose half the customers, and you end up 40-50% ahead, and it creates a lot of value. So that is a play here that I just thought about. Again, do you really want to be like taking angry phone calls and DMs? Like it's back to the Taylor Swift question.
Man, that is the most Michael ending to this episode ever. Poop on it for 30 minutes and then deliver the real gem at the end after a career of SaaS business. Like that's the real gem. That I'm going to tease that one in the intro. People got to know to stick around for that.
Okay, cool. All right. I'll see you later. Don't forget to record the intros.
All right.
We love you all.
Thanks. See you guys.